mushroom, not a dong. Hello everybody and welcome back for episode 3 of our vlog series. I hope you're all doing well. I'm doing well myself. So I want to start today's episode with a little quick tech update before we get into the meat of any kind of thing worth discussing. First of all, you might notice, again, things might look a little bit better. I'm going to say a little bit, not drastically or anything, but I did get a new camera since the last episode, as I had mentioned. I even put an annotation, if I remember correctly, saying that I had actually purchased this new one. So I have one of these fancy, I forget the actual model number. I think it's a Logitech C920, if I remember correctly. It's got 1080p, 30 frame per second, 1080p, 60 frames, 720p if I remember correctly, and I'm using 720, so it should be nice and smooth. And if you notice any kind of like distortion or kind of like staticky kind of effects, that's just because of the green screen. And I have an amazingly jerry-rigged, awful setup, despite the fact that I think it looks okay. It could look a lot better, I am aware of this. I've also tried my best to eliminate the glare from my glasses because I know that somebody had mentioned that was kind of obnoxious, and I agreed, it was definitely obnoxious. I still agree that it's obnoxious to have to look at white shiningness in my glasses. You don't want to see that. I mean, the easy solution is to get better glasses. So that way I can keep some sort of monitor open and actually look at myself, because right now I'm just staring at the camera and that's kind of weird, but I'll get over it. So yeah, incremental, minor improvements again. I want to keep continuing to do that whenever I can until we have the greatest production values of all time for a vlog series. I doubt that'll ever happen, but it would be sweet. I also bought a little tripod for this camera too, so in case I wanted to set it up at some weird angle for some reason, I'm sure I'll come up with some reason, because as I mentioned, I think last episode, I do want to also try and integrate some sort of show and tell elements into things, and in fact, I'm going to sort of do that today. So, what are our topics today? Well, I'm not actually going to be answering questions directly. I actually just did a Q&A stream just the other day on, you know, how I do these cookie clicker streams occasionally. There's like 11 of them now, and they're all like an hour and a half long of me just answering questions from Twitch chat. They're a lot of fun, and I recommend you check them out. But since I just did one of those, I figured, well, we'll answer one major question that's not really from anyone in particular, that's just sort of from the internet at large. And also, I want to show you something kind of cool. So, what is that question, you're probably wondering? Well, a lot of people have told me and asked me about opinions on the whole is YouTube buying Twitch thing, and I think that's probably worth some discussion, but I think the story that I want to discuss is not the story that everyone wants to propagate right now, because there is no actual story. That's kind of the funny thing about it. Everybody keeps talking about how much there is to say, and all of the things that there are to say are all just implications and speculations, and that's cool. I mean, it's worth having that discussion too, because I guess given possible worst case scenarios, it's nice to know where things might fall, if everything falls apart, I suppose. But it's also worth keeping in mind that there is literally one place that has reported this article, and this story rather, and that one place, Variety.com, doesn't even have a real source. They just mentioned that someone that they knew that's involved in the industry told them about this. And then every single freaking media publication and internet anything reported this like there was an actual story. Okay, there's a story, but the story is not that there's gonna be someone buying something. We don't know that yet. So I think it's just worth keeping in mind that in all of the panic and all of the insanity that's been going on Twitter, all of the hashtagging and activism and people raising awareness of things, like, okay, I hear you. That's all valid, and given we find out more information about this information, that all might be totally fine, and I'm probably on board if that's the case, but I don't have enough energy to put myself through worrying about that kind of thing. I literally don't. Like, there's just no reason to get worked up when we don't even know if this is true yet, and it's actually been, I think it's been about a week since the story showed up, and it said that this was about to be announced imminently. I don't know what exactly the time scale for imminently might be, but I feel like it's shorter than a week, probably. I mean, maybe I'm just wrong. And in fact, like I said, all of this could just be true, and I just might be mistaken, and if that's the case, then we'll get right on to the next time when we need to get worried and speculate and you know, all of that stuff. You know, the shit hits the fan, as they say. there's plenty to be worried about if that did indeed go down that path, but I think plenty of more articulate people than me have already reported on all of those ideas. And in fact, even me and Rob and Austin talked about this in Magic a couple episodes back, so if you want to hear the naysayer, doombringer forecast on this whole idea, you can go ahead and watch that. But yeah, go watch like the TB video. Total Biscuit reported on this and went into great detail in a content patch about what exactly these implications might be if that's the case. I just want to call into question the fact that like nobody seems to care that basically every article that's about this is just saying, well, okay, so like somebody said maybe something's happening, but here's the reasons why this is terrible, and also here's why Twitch is a valid and legitimate platform, and they're just raising awareness of what Twitch even is. Like, they're using every possible angle to put this as their headline when there is no real headline. So I'm taking the kind of the Jon Stewart skewer the news satirical, like, let's report the reporting of the reporting that there's an article, not that there's an actual story here. And I think that's kind of where I think things are going to fall right now. As soon as this information changes again, though, I will get back to you with that kind of thing. So I know this is kind of like skirting the actual issue, but like I said, I've already kind of answered it in a way. So I just wanted to let that be the stance for the moment of where I'm at for this, because I don't have the energy, like I said. It was kind of wild, though, seeing everybody freaking out for a minute, and I kind of almost bought into it. I mean, I went down that road of being worried and scared and everything, and then I took a few steps back and I was like, you know what? It's not worth it. I don't think it's worth it. What am I going to get out of being worried? I've got the whole thing about waiting for the whole Content ID thing to hit. That still was supposed to happen in, like, January. We're still waiting for any kind of news about that. I was supposed to have to wait, like, 3 or 4 days to monetize my videos sometimes. And as far as I can tell, everything's still exactly the same way it was before that announced change. Not to say that it couldn't take place, like, the day that I put this video up. Of course it could, because YouTube is a wild and volatile place. But as far as I can tell, everything is basically exactly the same as it was before all of the doom and gloom that was announced in the October to December period, fall of 2013. The fall of 2013 on YouTube.com. That's what it was. So anyway, if there's a message to be taken away from this point, it's just that there's no message to be taken away from this point, and you don't need to worry about it until we need to worry about it. And that is the time, once there's actual evidence, that we should start, raising hell or whatever the hell we're going to do. We can't do anything about it. What are we going to do? I think the best case scenario here, or the worst case that leads to the best case, so if everything does go to hell, and everything gets miserably horrible, and Google takes over Twitch, and Twitch becomes this den of whatever the hell we think it's going to become, the Content ID system gets introduced to it, all of our Twitch VODs get flagged, and then all of our shit gets taken down, like, okay, so I'll just start a Patreon, and I'll just put my videos up on Dailymotion. Like, that's my way of bowing out. If everything goes completely awful, I will just not exist on those entities anymore that are controlled by this one singular corporation, and let's not forget the fact that there could be antitrust things involved, because they're kind of like buying their biggest competition if that actually did happen. Again, I don't want to get down this road. Like I said, I've already talked about it, but it's not a done deal, even if things do go forward to the best of their ability. So let's just keep that in mind, okay? No more fear-mongering, no more fake clickbait articles. Once there's articles that we can talk about, let's talk then. Alright, so that was point 1 down, and why don't we move on to point 2 now, something maybe a little bit more lighthearted and jovial. So anyway, if you guys have followed me on Twitter, you might notice lately I've been hanging out a lot more with this lovely lady named MacLeod. She is a violinist, she plays a piano, she's part unicorn, and just really silly and awesome, and you should go check out her channel, and I'm going to put a link, like, right around here somewhere, so you guys can go have a look, and see if you like anything. She's done a whole bunch of great video game music covers, and she's just a really talented musician. So go look, not just because, like, we're friends, I just think she's really talented on top of that, and, hopefully you guys will find something you like over there, and if you do, consider subscribing, because I think she deserves a much, much larger audience. Anyway, the reason I bring her up is because she's super cool, and she's kind of inspired me a little bit to want to try something a little different, so I actually had access to basically borrow a violin, and since she plays one, I kind of wanted to see how hard it is, and well, truth be told, it's real hard. I didn't expect that I was necessarily going to be able to play anything at all, really, like over a weekend or anything, but like even just holding the instrument is not the easiest thing, so I can clearly see why it takes people like 20 years of classical training to be really proficient at this thing. I mean, I think even playing guitar is like 20 times easier than this. But anyway, I've got these right here with me, so you can see, and the bow, of course. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with this particular instrument, but there's actually like a whole way that you have to kind of wrap your hand around this thing to even be able to hold it properly. So I had to like learn the parts that are down here, and I don't even remember all of their names, but there's like, I think this one here is called the frog, and then this is the pad, and you hook your thumb down in this edge here, and then you put your middle finger, I think it was here, and then one finger up like that, and then you put your pinky like on the top to try and balance it, and this is just so you can get the proper angle. So when you're bowing on the instrument, it's not throwing the weight distribution all off. So that was not meant to be a tutorial on how to hold a bow or anything, but this is just something I picked up from watching a YouTube video, because of course YouTube solves all the problems of the world. And then, of course, tuning the violin was the second biggest nightmare. Actually, that was the first biggest nightmare. Holding the bow was a lot easier by comparison. So I didn't realize, and I've played guitar for a lot of years, but I didn't notice ever that there were these micro-tuning pegs down at the bottom underneath here. These little gold suckers here are actually for getting like a proper fine tune, and I think a lot of these cheaper violins, and that's what this one is, they aren't meant to necessarily be tuned by the actual tuning pegs. You're supposed to get them near where they go with these guys, and then you like lock them into place by twisting them as hard as you can physically push and turning at the same time, and then you use these suckers down at the bottom to get to the actual notes. Yeah, that's me struggling to find the camera angle. But yeah, that was really annoying. Like every time I would try to tune this sucker, I would turn the tuning pegs a little bit, and then they would just get looser, and to the point where they were almost falling out of the slots. I don't know if you can see, but there's like a big gap on the inside, right? Like these are not flush the way that you would see with a guitar tuning peg or something, where it's essentially, there's no like wooden dowel involved, it's all mechanical. With this though, all it is just basically a piece of wood up against another piece of wood, and you're just supposed to rely upon the friction of the two pieces of wood intersecting on the inside of this channel here to stop the thing from detuning. So it's real silly, and it took me a while to figure out, but once I understood that there were a second set of tuning pegs, then I guess things made it a little bit easier. Still, though, it took me like 2 hours to tune the thing properly, because every time I would do it, it would immediately lose the notes. So I'm real happy I have like a guitar tuning app that I could use to find that stuff out, otherwise it would be even in a worse position here. And also, I didn't realize when you hold the thing that you want to be holding it like completely perpendicular to your body. I thought you hold it like kind of out at an angle like this, but no, it's supposed to be like all the way out. Something like this, I guess. And I'm sure any actual violin players are going to immediately correct me, and that's fine. I'm not claiming to be a professional by any stretch of the imagination. But anyway, I just wanted to kind of hit on those couple of points. Go check out MacLeod, she's real cool. That's going to be it, though, for today's vlog. So if you want to leave me some kind of a message or a comment or just some kind of opinion on how things are going, feel free to do that in the comments. I am curious to know your opinions of how things are going. If you have a question that you'd like answered in a future video, of course, you can leave that as well, and I will consider it for the next one, or the one after that, or the one after that. There is no rule that I will always just use the last episode to pull the next episode's questions, or I may answer none of the questions in the comments, because that's what I did today, right? So whatever, it's kind of freeform. We have a casual good time here on the RockLeeSmile vlog. I hope you enjoy it, and thank you everybody for watching. So I will see you next time. Talk to you later.